has now been around for 3 seasons, and coaches everywhere are saving time and being more efficient when it comes to scout cards. Coach Robinson from Texas says the thing I most enjoy is the ease of access to all the scout cards and how I can draw on them if I need to make any changes. Every coach that uses it says that it is so great to use. If you and your staff are tired of the old ways of preparing and using scout cards, check out thecoachpad.com to start enjoying Scout Team and making the 2023 season better than ever.
Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Today we have a friend of mine, been on our channel, guy I've helped get on our state clinic when we were virtual. He is the new head coach at Missouri Western State University. Coach Fenwick, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on again. I always enjoy being on with you, and it's always good conversations with you.
I appreciate that, Coach. Well, briefly, I mean, I don't need your full background. We've done that before, but I mean, how did you obviously, I just mentioned you're the new head coach there at Missouri Western State. So how do you essentially come back to a place you'd been the OC before?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I was here as the offensive coordinator from 07 to 12, and we did some really good things, won a lot of games, won the MIAA championship, which I think, probably put me in position to get the head job at Missouri S&T. And so gain that experience as a head coach for 6 years over there, and built that program up and won 10 games in 2018, which probably put me in position to get the Southeastern head job, which is down there in Durant, Oklahoma, which is really close to Texas. Great recruiting pool down there. And so I was there for 4 years, and then when this job came open, it was kind of one of those things. I know a lot of people that are up here in the St. Joseph area. Quite a few alums, guys that either played for us while I was here, or just guys that were boosters and alums from the past and all that stuff that I just had good relationships with. And I think everything just kind of aligned, and I had some people that were pushing my name, and they contacted me and asked if I'd be interested, and then honestly, it happened really fast. I mean, it was literally a Zoom meeting on Wednesday. It was and then I left when we took the team down to the bowl game that we played down in Texarkana, and then by Monday after the game, they'd offered me the job, and then Tuesday I had to tell the team at Southeastern. Wednesday, my wife and family drove up to St. Joseph. Thursday, we did a press conference and meet the team, and then it was off to work. So it all happened, all very quickly. And then obviously, so that's, just sometimes it's all about who you know and the connections you make. And I think it goes back to, just doing a good job, where you're at, and not burning bridges, and just making, just building relationships with people. And then, some things kind of come back and come around. And this is, I've always thought that Missouri Western is a top 10 job, Division II job in the country. Just as far as the resources that they've committed to, and the facilities that we have here, and the ability to go recruit who we need to go recruit. And so it was one of those things where Southeastern was a great place, great people that I worked for. I really enjoyed it. I could have seen myself being there for a really long time. But if there was certain jobs at the Division II level, that I would have to look at it, and this thing came open, and here I am. So got new colors. So yeah.
Now we also talked a little briefly before we started. I mean, you've filled out staff. You've got a pretty good staff that you're very happy with. And you want to kind of talk about how you approached hiring a staff at Missouri Western State compared to maybe at your other two stops, how you approach that?
Yeah, well, a little bit different dynamic. When I was at Missouri S&T, I had 4 full-time assistant coaches, and the pay was okay. It wasn't great. So you're going to get some guys that are kind of up and coming, and then you're going to lose those guys, because they're going to do a good job and probably move on and get it. And then I didn't have any GAs at S&T. And then when I was at Southeastern, I had 4 full-time coaches, and then I had 3 GAs. So there was a little bit more that I could hire a staff and a little bit more help. Here right now we have 7 full-time assistant coaches, and we'll have 9 by the end of the summer. So we're kind of making that transition. So having a little bit bigger pool, the salary pool is a little bit bigger, so you can really go out and so what, putting this staff together, it was really important to have a good dynamic of, different, different age groups, different backgrounds, people from areas that we're going to recruit from. And so I ended up bringing my offensive line coach from Southeastern, who actually was with me at Missouri Western when I was a coordinator, Todd Throckmorton, who's arguably, I would say, he's one of the best I've ever seen. Just the way he develops offensive linemen and gets them to play, and just really bright. Has coached on the defensive side of the ball, so he sees things in a different way. Eric Johnson's the defensive coordinator that I worked with at Occidental College back in the early 2000s, that got back together with me at Southeastern, and so he's up here with. So those are the 2 guys from my current staff, and then the rest of them we filled out with guys that either are alums from Missouri Western or guys that I've worked with. Our safeties coach, Shane Dowdy, was with me at Missouri S&T, so I know how he works. He knows how I work. Guy that I can trust to come in and get the job done. And then a couple guys from the MIAA. Eric Moore is a guy that was a DB coach that honestly is a guy that I didn't really know him that well, other than just seeing him in recruiting, and just thought, man, this guy does such a good job in recruiting, and just a good personality and a good guy. And then Michael Gallo, who's at Missouri Southern, another guy. So those guys kind of know the conference. They know, the level and the talent that the MIAA is looking for from a recruiting standpoint. Gallo is an alum from Missouri Western also, so that kind of helps. So it's just a we've got some experience. We've got some young, energetic guys. The older I get, the more we need some young, energetic guys on staff. So that'll be, flying around practice and all that stuff. So I'm really fired up about the staff that we've been able to put together, and just good guys that know how to teach the game of football and do a good job recruiting.
Now, we've talked about this other topic a little bit. I think we hit a little bit last time we talked, but obviously you run and shoot, or your variation of it. I'm not asking you why. I think we've been over that before, but how is, especially the past couple of years with the increase in pattern matching, whether it be Ripple is or a lot more of the match quarter stuff that's become really prevalent around college football, how has that caused you to evolve as an offensive coordinator and head coach?
Well, I think, the run and shoot. So this is going back, I don't know, 30 years, just to start how we got into the run and shoot. My dad coached at University of Pacific and for a guy named Walt Harris, and they implemented the run and shoot, and it was all 10 personnel. And they went and visited with June Jones and Mouse Davis, and they brought, so I was in 8th grade at that time. So I didn't, I was kind of like, wow, this is, and so then my dad took that to a junior college and implemented that. And so then I ended up playing in it, and that's really what I understood. And so when I got into coaching, that's what I knew. And so, over the course of years now, when I was coaching at Occidental, it was one of those things, Division III, you just, high academic school, you don't really know what you're going to get. I mean, it's a little bit like high school where, you don't know what your personnel is going to look like. You're going to get whatever could pay $60,000 to go to school. So we didn't have scholarships. So we were able to implement, some things from the run and shoot concepts and the base stuff. And so we've gotten into using a tight end a little bit and being able to do some things. And then obviously, over the course of time, the evolution of the game, we've taken the run and shoot and gotten into some of the RPO game. I think, Rolovich was doing a bunch of that at Hawaii. And so, but we were able to implement some tight ends. And so we can still run a lot of the concepts, the streak and switch and choice and get into different personnel groups that fits, what we want to do. But then we can also get into run some some glance out of, running power and one back power with the tight end and throwing the RPO off the safety and just a little bit more multiple. But, you got to be careful about how much do you want to get into, because I think that's the cool thing about the run and shoot is there doesn't have to be a lot of volume because your reads and your adjustments and all that stuff is all built in. So going back to your original question, with all the match stuff, I mean, really, with the run and shoot, you're reading a guy, you're not necessarily reading a coverage so much. So, if you're manned up, you have man breaks, you have man cuts, you have man, if you're going to get more of a zone look and, then, you're going to sit things down and you're going to find windows and so it just allows us to be able to adapt to whatever we're going to see. And I think, for us, there's games where we go into it and there's so many multiple coverages that we're going to see in the game, in the defensive game plan. And, looking at, who's, you don't know what you're going to get from down to down. You're going to get, it's kind of a, it might be a grab bag of coverages. And it's like, I don't know what we're going to see on third down. So, us being able to, in a sense, have the chalk last and be able to adjust our routes and adjust our, based off of, what the defender's doing. And we do talk about coverage and we break down coverage and look at all that. But at the end of the day, if our outside receiver's running a streak read, he's going to read the corner, and he's going to do whatever, the opposite of what the corner's doing. And so I kind of talk about it with our, in layman's terms, as far as, with our receivers and our quarterbacks, it's like going out on, Thanksgiving Day and you're out in the backyard playing pickup football, where you could go out and where there's open grass, you go, that's where you go, and we put some structure to it. So, but I think, we're able to, basically take what the defense gives us. And, if they're going to overload to the trip side, and we're going to take advantage of the single receiver side. If they're going to, pull a safety over, and then we're going to work backside and get to the backside stuff where we got some other options going on.
Okay. No, perfect, Coach. Now, I mean, you mentioned several things there, but several ways I could go with it. But obviously, I'll phrase it this way. With that evolution of adding RPOs and some of the tight end stuff, how you structure an offensive practice changed over the course of time from when you just ran pure run and shoot to as you evolved? How has your practice schedule and how you teach things evolved?
It really hasn't evolved that much. I mean, it's we look at it as a tight end. If you're going to be in trips, your tight end is just your number 3 receiver. He's just a little bit tighter. And so, we can package things, we might want to, we'll sit there and say, okay, we're going to run, a mid-zone play, to the tight end because we're going to see a 3-14 that protects our edge a little bit better. But then we're going to sit there and say, okay, here's our run game with it out of our tight end formations. What can we do also that's going to balance us out from a tendency standpoint of, what passing game are we going to have out of trips with a tight end, just like you would at a 10 personnel. And so I think where I got into using some tight ends was being able to just have a little bit more of a run game presence, but then also a protection presence. So we struggled early on when we were more of a 10 personnel team with 3-4 defenses where you had edge guys coming off the edge and they're fast. And so we kind of were able to get into, if we really needed to, and we were outmatched. And a lot of times, we were outmatched because I wasn't always at the place that had, 36 scholarships. Sometimes I was at a place that had 8 scholarships going against, teams that had more resources. And so we had to make sure that we're going to protect our quarterback. And so we'd get into some 7-man check release protections out of that. But also be able to, have the numbers in the run game to be able to use a tight end and protect the edges with outside backers, bringing guys and that sort of thing. So it just gave us a little bit more to, from a protection and from a not having to run the ball uphill and trying to reach everything, push out to an extra guy, where you may not have, we got, when you play a 3-4, you got to handle 7 potential rushers in some combination, seven, combination of those 7 guys. So, and you don't know, where they're coming from sometimes. So, so from a practice structure standpoint, we might call, we'll call, in our script, we'll call choice, for example, and, it out of 10 personnel, but then the next time we're going to run it at 11 personnel. And, one of those guys has the unders and 10 personnel, and now the tight end's got an under. Now it's going to depend on what kind of tight end that we have. If we have a guy, like we had a kid named Reggie Jordan when I was at Missouri Western, well, that guy could get vertical. So we could get him up the seam. If we have a bigger, more of a blocking type tight end, we're going to put him on unders and arrows and flat routes and, things where we're going to use that to our advantage and not try to, put a square peg into a round hole and just to say we're going to do it. So, we've had, going back to just the whole personnel thing. I mean, we've had bigger receivers that maybe aren't as fast, but they're good football players that we've been able to stay in 10 personnel and maybe use that guy as a motion guy and use him in the run game to kind of protect our edges and things like that. So, but we still, our practice, our practices have been, we're going to get the receivers and tight ends together in a routes on air scenario, a 10-minute period, and we're going to work all the routes that those guys would run. We'll run switch with tight ends, and because a lot of times those guys are the last read, they don't have to be, they're backside, and so we'll put the tight end on the, on the switch on the sideline and what we call the rail, and he'll read the corner just like we would with a slot receiver. So they all are interchangeable, and so we can mix it up. But I don't want to get too much volume where we can't practice and get good at enough stuff.
Okay. Now, I mean, you mentioned a couple things there, and I'll come back to switch here in a minute. But I'm curious because, and I've heard you talk a little bit before when you did our state clinic. You talked about some quarterback play, and I just want to kind of go back to it. I mean, and because I've asked people, like, obviously with the evolution of defenses and offenses, how much you still use the half roll and the drop. Obviously RPOs, you're not going to half roll during that, but how much do you still use it? And really just for people who aren't familiar with the run and shoot half roll, how do you teach it?
Oh boy. So the half, I think the original run and shoot was the true half roll where they were going to get really wide and set up over the tackle, and it was almost like a roll. It's really evolved out of the shotgun for us. I term it more as a drift, and we try to get ourselves, basically I give them kind of the guard landmark, but I don't overcoach it, and because sometimes there might be something where they know that they're not going to go front side, and so they're going to peek front side, but they may not get as wide because they know they're going to get backside, which is fine. But, we basically when I teach the drift or the half roll or the drift, what I call, we're going to take a big first step out of the gun. We're going to, like, if we're going to the right, we're going to take a big first step about a 45-degree angle. And then depending on what route we got, or if we're going to throw the first read or if we're going to hitch, then we're either going to just gather with no hitch, and it's going to be a 1, 2, 3 and throw it. But it's a 40, basically I teach it as a 45-degree angle. Now, if we're going to the left, we teach the back pedal, which is different for a lot of people. A lot of our quarterbacks, when they come in, they're not used to the back pedal. And so we teach where if we're going to the left, we're going to start with our right foot. And that's going to be a big first step with depth and width. And then with our footwork, we're either going to go 1, 2, 3 and throw it, or we're going to 1, 2, 3 hitch and throw it if it's like a deeper curl or a corner route, or we're going to go 1, 2, 3. It's not open, and that gives us time to kind of decipher. I think the thing that people don't understand about the run and shoot is, I think everybody thinks that it's a down the field, everything's, and it is vertical. But it's also built in, it's a quick game, get the ball out offense. I mean, it's, the run and shoot is not meant to be holding the ball for 4 seconds and wait for everybody to get 50 yards down the field and throw it deep. It can get to that, But, if we're going to call smash on the front side and, the hitch is open on the outside with the number one receiver, then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, no hitch and throw the ball and get it out. And if you talk to, I've spent a lot of time with Dan Morrison, who was worked with June Jones for many, many years and is still working with June Jones in the XFL. But, I've built a really good relationship with him, and just talking about how, we want to get the ball out of our hands and get it to those guys. And if they take it away, that's when the big plays come. But we don't necessarily sit there and say, we're going to force the big play. We're going to let the big plays happen. So, we try to, have an average of getting the ball out in 2.6 seconds. So the course of a game, I'll come back with a stopwatch and see, and I'll time each throw from snap to release, and over the average of the course of the game, can we get that? Are we getting that thing out in 2.6? Now, obviously there's going to be some where we're going to get all the way backside and it might be 3.4, but there's also a lot of times where we want that ball, quick outs and, hitches and, hitting the ball in the flat and just get it out and get into the athletes so that they can get it in space and go run. And then lo and behold, you call a play where you think you're going to throw the hitch, and next thing you know, you're backside throwing a touchdown on the seam. And you're like, okay, great job. So, and then there's certain things that we call that are specific to, let's take a shot. But I think the mentality of it is, quick drops, quick feet, get it out, and get it out of your hands.
No, it's a good point, because I was listening to this, I think a mouse clinic from when we did at UH, like in 2005 or something like that. And he mentioned, was talking about go, and he's talking about the ball needs to be out in that third step.
Yeah.
And talked about, I think like Jeff George couldn't do it. Jeff had to take 5. So he did like the first 2 steps, and then it was like 3 choppy steps. He just couldn't do it on that third big step. He had to do 3 choppy. So like, to your point, yeah, it should be out. He's like, you should never get sacked on go.
Yeah. Right.
Third step.
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing is, on go, a lot of times, if you can get that they take away that flat defender and they throw the seam, and it's not just a seam. There's so much more that goes into it about getting width and creating your space, and that ball needs to be completed at 10 to 12 yards. It's not a ball that's going to be down the field 20 yards. If that's the case, you're holding on to it too long. And that was something that, working with Dan Morrison and just kind of more, just understanding that whole concept of that thing, it's, get that thing out.
Yeah, no, you're perfectly right. Now I want to ask you, because and I don't need every detail, but just from a broad, you can get as detailed as you want with it. But you mentioned switch, and like I said, I've been slowly going down this run and shoot rabbit hole this off season. How do you teach switch, or how do you approach teaching switch?
Yeah, I think it starts with the alignment. If we're running it from the boundary, we're going to put that guy about 2 to 3 yards inside the numbers, because at the end of the day, your landmark is 2 yards outside the hash. And so you got to get to that guy. So number one, we tell number one to go first. And he's going to push an inside stem, and he's got to make sure that he doesn't get rerouted. But we don't want to be so flat, and we don't want to be so horizontal that we can't get ourselves to get vertical. And so we've got to stem inside, but we got to get vertical up the seam as quickly as we can. And then obviously he's going to read the safety, and if the safety is gone, there's nobody up the seam, that he's going to take it vertical, keeping his outside, staying outside the hash. If the safety crosses our face, in a cover 2 look, then we can bend it. And if the safety's over top, we're going to sit down, find a window behind the linebacker. So, and obviously man, we're going to break it off. So that's that part of it. But what we started, and actually I got it when I went out to Hawaii a few years ago, probably 5 years ago, and talked with Craig Stutzman and Rolovich, and we kind of were talking about, I stole it from them, but the switch, the slot guy that's going to run the rail or the outside read is, we've kind of started teaching him getting vertical for about 2 steps, just to kind of set that safety, feeling like he's got, that, because a lot of times they're going to have eyes on the safety, and take 2 verticals. So we just set it just a little bit and just a little bit of a delay, and then we get going and kind of let it clear. But I get a lot of questions about why do you call switch instead of streak, and why one or the other. And honestly, sometimes there's times where I haven't called switch as much because our slots are just such good streak read or seam read runners that they have such a knack for it. And so sometimes it's whoever runs it better, we might call it a little bit more. But then, so going back to, the slot, so we set it vertical just for about 2 steps, and then we get going, and then we teach it. And this part of it, I think I got from Timmy Chang. I've stolen everything, obviously, which I think we all have at some point, but so we're going to push it and try to attack the blind side of the corner and push it to about, 14. And then if we're going to sit it down, we used to bring it back to the sideline. But I've started teaching bringing it right back down our stem. And the reason for that is we felt like when we got to the sideline, that corner could break and undercut it and get underneath that throw. And so, but then we started teaching it, bringing it straight back down the stem. And now that corner has to go through the back of the receiver to make that play. So which is going to he's going to shield him, or we're going to get a pass interference call more likely. And so we teach them to keep coming straight back down that stem. If we have a defender that's on our hip, there's no cushion, he's on our hip, then we'll pull through and we'll turn that into a dig. I think one of the things that's probably different than some of the other run and shoot, what we've got to is, I think, on that rail or the switch outside streak read is, it's kind of that whole, if you get by, if you beat them, then you're going. Well, what we found is that, by the time we got backside and that guy, so maybe we beat him and we're ahead of him, but he's trailing us. Well, by the time, and we're in a full sprint, by the time that our quarterback got back to it, we were so far down the field that we couldn't make that throw. And so what we said is the only time that we're going to take that up is if it's a rolled up corner. So maybe a cloud corner or a cover 2 corner, where we can actually, take that thing vertical. Because now we have to take that vertical to hold a safety on the hash, to make that, we got the streak read, the inside streak read or the seam read. And now that safety's got to pick one or the other. But anytime we had man-to-man, even though, we tried to really not, unless it was so bad that we beat them off the line, then we would go. But most of the time when we got that, we would go ahead and break it off and turn it into maybe 2 digs or something.
Okay. No, perfect, Coach. That one thing one of the last things I want to ask you is I've heard Mouse talk about how he evaluates quarterbacks and his priority of accuracy, like arm strength is like 6 on his list of things that he worries about. How do you, when you're evaluating quarterbacks, prioritize the attributes or skills you're looking for?
Yeah, that's a good question. When we're recruiting quarterbacks, I think, I look for, good feet. I want to watch a kid on film, and I want to be able to sit there and say, that kid looks like he knows where the ball's supposed to go. For example, there's sometimes you watch a quarterback and his head's all over the place and he's just trying to find the open guy. But I think you can tell when he's got good feet, he throws the ball on time. He knows, you can tell that he's going to look one way. He's going to get off of things quickly to get to the next read or the third read. And so to me, that's a big part of it, because he understands the mental part of the game. You can see it. So looking at footwork, I think, having good feet, having good balance, having good, knee bend, athletic in the pocket. And I'm not talking about athletic like the guy's got to take off and run and all that stuff. That to me is a bonus. But I want to see a guy that's going to have a, good posture in the pocket, be able to kind of move around in the pocket as far as just kind of sidestepping and staying within balance. And then, we don't get a chance. I think by the time they get to us, I think it's really hard to really teach the mechanics of throwing the football. So we want to make sure that they've got a good, a good release, maybe a quick release. But it's not, the elbows down or just totally out of whack. And then, but arm strength is probably one of those things that, arm strength, I would agree. I mean, I think arm strength is probably one of the last, things that I'm really going to be more concerned about. I want to know, can he get it out, and can he throw it? Can he be accurate? Obviously if you've got a guy that has got a cannon for an arm and he's accurate, then that's, and he can run, that's like the perfect guy, right? But those guys are hard to find. So I think, the quarterbacks that have been the best quarterbacks for me are guys that can put it on a spot, throw it on time, understand, the defenses and where windows are going to be open. And you can tell, I think that you can tell that. One of the things that I always ask quarterbacks when they, when I meet with them, in recruiting, is I just flat out ask them, if, you're out there on the field, what play are you just totally fired up about when the coach calls a play? And I tell them it can't be 4 vertical because I want some substance to it, and that sort of thing. But, what is it when the coach calls this play, you're just like, yes, I love that play. Let's go out and execute this thing. And then I make them, teach it to me. And so, cause I just want to know mentally, how are they reading things, and how do they see it? And if the kid can sit there and say, okay, this is our first read and this is what I'm looking for, and if it's not there, they take this away, then, then I go to this, and then I go to this. And so just being able to talk to X's and O's in football, and just try to, see his brain work, and see, how far along his football IQ is, I think is important. Because we just, again, with the hours that we're allowed, at the college level and at the Division II level, I think there's more at the Division I level, but, you really got to get a guy that, can already throw it. I can work. We spend a lot of time on footwork. We spend a lot of time on, because our footwork is a little bit different with our drift and our back pedal and all that stuff, and trying to get through progressions and eliminate things on the front side and getting all the way to the back side. I've actually gotten to the point, and I'm kind of going off topic here, but I've gotten to the point with our progressions where, from a teaching standpoint, I've really emphasized getting to the last read early on in the teaching process, because that's the hardest thing to do. There's a lot of quarterbacks that come out of high school that it might be, the coach is telling them, hey, if the first read's not there, take off and run. Well, again, if we're calling smash, if anybody's calling smash, you've got one read. Well, if smash gets taken away, there's a lot of quarterbacks that panic and they go, well, what do I do now? Where am I supposed to go? And you can tell they got their head all over the place. So I really teach that the first read's the easy part. That's easy, because I'm going to sit there and I say, okay, pre-snap, I know what's going to, I'm 90% sure that this hitch is going to be open, so I can go 1, 2, 3 and throw it. Or I'm pretty sure it's cover 2. We got safety inside the hash. I'm going to have a great chance of throwing the corner out. But I've got to really get to the good at, if that gets taken away, what's my plan? Having a plan pre-snap. And so we work a lot of footwork of getting backside and throwing the backside streak reads, and because that's to get a quarterback to go from 1 to 2 to 3, and feel like he's got time to do that. We've got to make sure that, we're not asking the offensive line to protect for 6 seconds for him to get back there. So we've got to eliminate some things. We got to see some things. We got to get our footwork and our shoulders and our hips, backside, so that we can throw the deep ball or get off it and get to the third. So I've actually kind of started a few years ago, almost teaching it backwards, from a sense of here's the concept, and because the backside streak read's always open. And there's so many times. And so since I've been doing that, I think I've thrown that backside rail probably more in the last 3 years at Southeastern than I probably have in my entire coaching career. I mean, our quarterback was so good at just getting all the way back and just knowing that thing it's open, it's going to be there. And so that's, that was a lot of information about whatever question it was you asked me.
No, you start with evaluating, we transition into teaching.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And our last question, so you can make your meeting, and I got stuff I got later today as well. I don't remember if I asked you this last time, but and it also could just see if it changes. But what is your favorite run and shoot play? And when I say that, it doesn't need to be the most successful, but like, which one do you enjoy teaching and calling the most?
Choice. I really enjoy teaching choice because there's so much that goes into it. I think, and I think that's one of those plays that is always going to be in the game plan because there's so many different there's so many different answers based on whatever coverage that we're going to see. You know, and we'll run it out of a lot of, I think the original run and shoot is, it's a trips play. It's going to be, single receiver, choice route, and you got, everything backside. But we'll run it out of different, we can run it out of 2x2. We'll call it out of 2x2, and we'll call it, with the tight end formations and things like that, whether it's a balanced up formation or a trips formation. And so I think there's just a lot of things. And then, being able to run switch off of it, being able to run special off of it. There's just a lot of answers to it. And I think, we're going to rep that just about every day in practice, because you really got to get the quarterbacks and receivers on the same page as far as the reads go. And we still teach it. I mean, we still teach it the same way that Mouse teaches it. In fact, I mean, this is, I still actually go back probably once a year and go watch the original Mouse Davis choice on the chalkboard teaching tape just to see, what I missed, or is there something, that, and just kind of refresh. And I'll actually have, if I have new coaches that are, learning, what we're doing, I'll start with that, and teach it straight off of, how he teaches it. Now there's some things that we've tweaked with certain things, but not much. But we still do it where, it's the cushion, we read, if there's a 5-yard cushion, we're going to run the out. If there's a 3-yard cushion, we'll run the skinny post, or we're going to run takeoff if it's pressed. And so so that, to me, that's I like that the best. We've kind of gotten away from go. We run it a little bit versus certain looks, and you have to rep it a lot. And I really enjoy it because when you hit that seam, it's really fun. But there's just a lot of, you're seeing a lot of defenses that are really pushing extra guys to the trip and squeezing things down and all that. But when it's good, it's good.
I'm actually going to ask you one more question. Like,
okay.
And I know, ignoring your quick game and your RPOs, what are the first 3 like run and shoot pass concepts that you install?
First, we're going to run streak and switch, which I package as the same deal. And then off of that, we're going to run, so I think off of streak, you've got smash, and you've got, take off out, whatever you call that. And I think those are all kind of work together. So that's kind of one little package that we do. Choice is going to be something that we're going to put in really early in camp, either depending on where we're at in the installs and how experienced we are, it might be a day one thing. And then, we're probably going to run, I really like, I think what they call hitch, what we call, so basically it's we're going to push the rail front side and make that the first read with our seam read and our under. And we get a lot out of that, where we just come out and throw an 8-yard rail. Or if we get pressed, I mean, last year we had an All-American receiver, and if we got pressed, then we were going to go ahead and just throw it up the sideline. We got a lot of mileage out of that. But everything that we pretty much do is going to have an inside outside streak read to it for the most part. Okay. Going back to the RPO thing, I think the run and shoot with the post snap reads, falls right in line with the RPOs, because those are post snap reads. And so we were already, I think when we started getting into the RPO game and the post snap, read the safeties off the run game and read that backer off the run game. I mean, it was something that we already knew. We were already used to reading safeties. We were already used to, being able to get our eyes on things post snap. And so it almost fits hand in hand with, it's kind of comes from that whole flex bone, if this, then this, and it has all the answers kind of the deal. So it all worked, from a teaching standpoint and knowledge of what our guys already knew how to do. It fit perfect.
Okay. Well, perfect, Coach. Well, coaches, his Twitter's in the bio. Give him a follow. Follow his staff on Twitter as well. Like, share, subscribe. Check our sponsor, Coachpad. Otherwise, that is another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.